Oh, never seen that before. You're getting technical back there. All right, well, welcome everybody to the May 25th Inventors and Entrepreneurs Club, brought to you by East Central Energy, East Central Regional Development Commission, and GPS 4593. This is our monthly meeting. Just a quick note here that we are going on summer vacation. So we're taking June, July, and August off. And we will return with a very good lineup again, starting in September. I'd like to remind everybody that we do not charge any membership. This is free and open to the public. Participant level is a little low tonight, but if you go watch our videos online of past meetings, you'll see that they do get quite a few hits. So people are watching afterwards at their leisure when they can. We understand when it's 80 some degrees on a beautiful Tuesday night. You know, there's ball games going on and lawns to mow and everything else. So it becomes a little bit of a hassle, but it's nice that the nice thing about the pandemic is these are recorded now and put online. You can view past meetings and catch up. I also like to remind you that we are here for the inventors and we are here for the entrepreneurs. This is a network of people that can put things together, people with people that can help you pursue your dreams. Of course, tonight we are focusing on another entrepreneurial organization or club, and that is 1 Million Cups. We have Peyton Green is going to be speaking on some venture capital and also his experience with 1 Million Cups. And then we're going to hear from Andy, I'm not even going to try to pronounce everything that's in this bio here because I am going to screw it up. I am not a medical professional and I don't play one on TV, so I can't say half these words. But Andy just presented at 1 Million Cups. And for those of you that have been here before, you know that Patrick Donahue, he is the leader of the 1 Million Cups Eden Prairie division. And with that, I'm going to steal something from 1 Million Cups because I've been actually tuning in when I can. So I'm going to steal something from 1 Million Cups. Peyton and Andy, you probably already know this. But normally I pick on the people and have them introduce themselves. But in 1 Million Cups, they hot potato it to the next person. So we're going to hot potato it. So I'm going to call on somebody to do an introduce themselves in about 30 seconds, and then you get to pick the next person. So with that, I am Mark Nelson. I am your host tonight. I am with East Central Energy, one of the co-founders of this organization, proud to be here. And I will hot potato it to my co-host, Jordan Zeller.
Hey, thanks, Mark. Jordan Zeller here with the East Central Regional Development Commission. I do economic development, and we serve the 5 counties in East Central Minnesota: Chisago, Isanti, Kanabec, Mille Lacs, and Pine counties. And in doing economic development, I always like to say I am never the smartest person in the room, even when I'm the only person in the room. The one saving grace is I've got a pretty good Rolodex. So happy to work with entrepreneurs. You tell us what the issues are, what the problem are, and we'll get you referred over to the resource providers and assistance networks to get you the help to help you make your dreams reality on that. So that's a little bit about me. I will hot potato it now to Rebecca.
Hi, I'm Rebecca. I'm the director of the North Central Small Business Development Center. We're located in Brainerd, and we serve all 5 counties of the East Central region. Happy to be here. I have worked in this position Since this past January. The SBDC is, of course, a resource partner of the United States Small Business Administration. Before that, I did work in Washington, D.C. For SBA, in the SBIC program, so investment capital. And so it'll be interesting to hear this discussion. I pass it to Lee.
Yeah, my name's Lee. I have a small company, Onyx Industries in North Branch, and curious what you all are up to. So you'll have to excuse me. I haven't eaten all day. I may have dinner if nobody is too offended by that. Then whoever else wants to go next, I don't know. Pick a name, any name.
How about
Andy.
Lynn?
I can go. Andy Obst, I'm one of the presenters tonight. Speaking of pronunciation issues, I just learned Kanabec. Is that how you pronounce the county? I've always called it Cannabec, so I guess I've lived in Minnesota all my life, but I've kind of screwed that up for a long time. So, in any case, entrepreneur here to present, here to talk about 1 million cups. Actually located down in Scandia, just a mile south of the Chisago County line. So I'm just on the fringe, I guess, of the area. I'll pass it off to Linda.
Thanks, Andy. I'm Linda Lydola. I own a company called Raven Performance Group. I'm a recovering manufacturer. Used to have a company called Raven Machine and Tool in Mora. And right now I run Raven Performance Group, I facilitate groups of business owners, peer groups. And Leslie, let's hear from you. Nice to see you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Leslie Sauter. I'm with Pine. Thanks. I would turn my video on, but I'm home with the kids right now. This is my first. I'm with Pine County. I'm their new economic development coordinator as of last week. This is my first Entrepreneurs Inventors Club because I was previously working for the city of Pine City, and these always fell on my planning commission night. I'm excited to make the last meeting of the season and listen in.
Good to have you here, Leslie. All right. Did we miss?
I gotta pick someone.
Did we miss anybody?
Yes.
Mike
Okay.
Weimer.
Mike.
Mike.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. My name is Mike Wimmer, Mille Lacs County Economic Development Manager, and that's about it. I think, Peyton, you're the last one, but you're the presenter, so I
The
don't
names keep
know.
jumping around, so I'm gonna just actually I usually read the bio, but I'm just gonna turn it over to Peyton and let him introduce himself and jump right into it. So Peyton, take it away. Before you do, if you have questions as you go along, please type them in the chat and I will be sure to ask them. If everybody could at least mute their microphones, that'd be great. So that there's no feedback and no sound. So Peyton, go ahead. Thank you.
Yeah, sounds great. I'll start with a quick intro myself. Glad to be here, first of all, and thanks for having me tonight. I'm Peyton Green. I'm an analyst for a new hybrid private equity and venture capital firm down in the Twin Cities called Traction Capital. I have a background in finance and economics as well as entrepreneurship. I come from a family of entrepreneurs and am a aspiring entrepreneur myself. So lots of crossover with this group here. Today I'm presenting on 1 million cups. You'll have to bear with me. I've never presented on 1 million cups before, but I'm a frequent attendee of the group. And Patrick, who's the normal expert on the group, couldn't do it tonight. So I'm gonna try and fill his big shoes. I'm also presenting tonight on our fund as well. So I look forward to telling you guys a little bit more about it. And like Mark said, I'm happy to answer any questions as we go. So I will go ahead and get started. Oop. I'll share my screen for y'all. All right, is everyone seeing a 1 million cups cover slide? Oh, all right. right, sounds good. Well, I'll get her going. 1 Million Cups is a lot like this group, from what it seems like. It is a resource for entrepreneurs, inventors, and anyone with a passion for entrepreneurship. It's a weekly educational program developed by the Kauffman Foundation. Oops. Well, my slide, there we go. Developed by the Kauffman Foundation, which is a foundation out of Kansas City, founded by Ewan Marion Kauffman, successful entrepreneur in his own right, and with a passion to be uncommon. So essentially what the Kauffman Foundation does is it strives to educate and empower entrepreneurs to connect with each other, strive to achieve their dreams, and get feedback in groups like 1 Million Cups. So they founded the group back in 2012. It's a nonprofit, and sorry, I lost my spot in my notes. And it's groups that meet all over the country. So the first group was in Kansas, and now there's over 150 groups nationwide. Oh, and I'm representing the Eden Prairie group. So we have several in Minnesota. I frequent the Eden Prairie group, but there's others in the Twin Cities as well. So the Kauffman group, one thing they do is they collect data around entrepreneurship. This slide explains the entrepreneurship deficit. So this is using a metric called startup density, which is essentially the number of startups per 1,000 companies. So how many of the companies that exist in the U.S. are startups? And as you can see, back when this study was published in 2017, their most recent data from 2016 showed that over that 40-year period, startup density had declined quite dramatically. So Kauffman Foundation took this data and pushed on with its mission to try and get more entrepreneurs to feel empowered to start their own things and strive to achieve their goals. Sorry, again, I lost my spot. Anyways. And during COVID, the rate of new entrepreneurship was up from its 20-year average of 0.3% per 100 people to 0.38%. So there's about 80 more adults per 100 or 10,000 entrepreneurs, or 10,000 people that were starting businesses in 2020. However, there was an issue of less of those adults starting their companies because of opportunity versus necessity. So that was kind of a concern. So it remains an issue is the point there. And yeah, now this is going to be easier for me to talk about because it's not Kauffman Foundation stuff and it's more about our actual group. So 1 Million Cups in Eden Prairie is a safe place for entrepreneurs to share their story. The way I kind of explain that to people is it's not a investor pitch event. It's not Shark Tank. We're not going to grill you on your ideas and discourage you from feeling like you can pursue what you want to pursue. Really, it's a place for people to exchange feedback and positive energy and potentially provide resources. It's like we ask every week, what can the community do for you? And with that could be funding. It could be a key hire. It could be a key person or a resource center. But it might also just be feedback on an idea or advice from someone who's been there and done that. That's most commonly what we're looking for in our presentations each week in 1 Million Cups. Those presentations are usually, we used to have two 6-minute presentations every week. Through COVID, it's been 1 to 2, but usually there's 1 or 2 presenters every week. And again, usually entrepreneurs just looking for feedback and help with their businesses. 1 Million Cups meets every Wednesday from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. It's virtually right now, like a lot of things are. And we're looking forward to the day when it can be in person again. When I first started going, it was in person. I miss those days, and I eagerly await getting to see my fellow 1 Million Cuppers one day again. It's 100% volunteer community organizers, so it's all organic. It's not, it's kind of like your group where there's no fee structure, no data being sold, nothing like that. It's just organic entrepreneurs finding other entrepreneurs. As they like to say, it only requires coffee, space, and people. And again, no fees, no data gathering. It started back in January 2nd of 2018. The Eden Prairie one cohort did. Since then, they've had over 145 meetings, over 2,800 attendees, and over 180 presentations. There's a picture of the group. It's presented by Berry Coffee, or we have a sponsor by Berry Coffee, so they provide the coffee and the caffeine for us every week. Very appreciative of them. 1 Million Cups has a foundation, has 200 groups in the US, and growing. Eden Prairie is very strong, as you can see. And this map shows some of the other locations in Minnesota as well. That's it I had on, or that's it for what I had on 1 Million Cups. Does anyone have anything else to share or ask?
Anybody have any questions on 1 Million Cups?
I would be interested, Peyton, to learn how you became familiar with 1 Million Cups. How did you initially become involved?
Yeah, yeah, and that might be more helpful for me to talk about my own story. So I started going when I was a college student. I have a stepfather who's involved in the entrepreneur community. He knew Patrick personally, and just invited me to come along. He knew that I wanted to be an entrepreneur someday. So I came to a couple meetings back then. I didn't go for a couple years. Coincidentally, I got my job working in the venture fund in town, and my boss, or the managing partner and founder of our fund, goes back about 30 years with Patrick, the leader of 1 Million Cups. So I got back involved with the group because of that. It's kind of refreshing for me personally, because a lot of what I do is watch pitches and play that shark role, like a Shark Tank, style thing. And that can get old a lot of times. I'm a very positive and uplifting person. So it's fun to go to that group, because it's less about, what's your revenue model and how are you going to scale and exit in 4 years, and more about how can I actually help you. That really resonates with me and my core values as a person. So yeah, that's a long answer about how I got involved and where I am now. But
So Peyton, what brings people back to the meetings?
well, one, I would say it's just the diverse background of people who attend the meetings. So along with the 6-minute presentations, there's the kind of pre-networking every week. We do the intros and what have you been working on, kind of like we did here. And so you get to hear from a people, or a group with a wide variety of different backgrounds, which I think is really helpful for any entrepreneur, because I think it's you can be as talented or as smart and experienced as you are as an individual, but when you take the aggregate or the cumulative experience and breadth of knowledge that a group like that provides, it's just such a valuable resource for people. And then the long-term relationships, you get to know the same people who are regulars, and you look forward to seeing them every week. It's like seeing friends. That, and we do have a few really eccentric personalities that every week you don't know what they're going to do or say, and it is worth it's price of admission right there. Is totally worth it with some of the people we have that attend.
Mm-hmm. Can you talk about some of the specific examples of things that people ask for?
Yeah, so typically it's it's advice on growth challenges. It's validation of an idea. It's trying to work out, for example, something that might be a tech company might be asking for anyone who knows of good developers, or out of house, not in-house developers, or potentially a team member they could bring on. They might just be looking for general feedback on an industry, or people who have experience in an industry, to provide feedback on an idea. Sometimes it's partnership. Some people are looking to find a partner in the group. Legal advice, accounting help, you name it. There's a pretty wide variety of things that people ask for out of the group, I'd say. Sometimes it is funding, by the way. I mean, that is looking for investors is even though I talk about the shark type mentality that goes on with investors, sometimes it is, also something that's necessary for business to scale a lot of times too.
Mm-hmm.
And not all investors are sharks, by the way.
Yeah. And I know I was on a couple weeks ago, and I can't remember the lady's name, but she created an app on keeping track of things in the house and the appliance, and she was looking for connections to real estate, a lot of the real estate professionals. It was something you could update, you know, keep track of your maintenance of your appliances, dates of your appliances, warranties, all in one app. And so when you sold your house, this would go along with it, so that the new owners would have this capability of knowing what was, you know, what the warranties were, the manuals. And having bought a house a few years ago, and I know I opened the drawer and there was the manuals for all the appliances, and you think I could find those things now? I got no idea where they are right now. It would be nice to have that stuff on an app. I just love the idea. So, and by the way, Linda Lytela is like our Q&A lady. I mean, if I can count on anybody to ask a question, it's her. And so I'm going to answer this question because she asked, is it a weekly meeting? And yes, it is. It's every Wednesday. It's for an hour. They start at 9 o'clock. They're done by 10. It goes very quick.
It does. It flies by. Yeah. And I would encourage, you know, I can talk about it scattered across a presentation like this, but I would encourage any of you who are interested at all to tune in. We have people who tune in from all over the country that are just hopping from 1 million cups to another. So even if you're not from Eden Prairie or from that part of the state or anything, there's a lot of value to get out of it. Just tuning in for a week, and I highly recommend doing it, because attending it's going to tell the story a lot better than I can through a slideshow.
Yeah, and that they meet every Wednesday at 9 o'clock, and I actually have the link here in my schedule, and I'm going to copy it and put it in the chat for everybody. So if you're not doing anything at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, you can attend the 1 Million Cups event and say hi to Patrick. I think he'll be there.
Yep, I think Patrick's there tomorrow.
Yep, and so, you know, go ahead and copy that link. And to answer the next question, are there any virtual only groups? They are virtual right now only. Usually they were like us and met in person, but they've been forced into meeting virtually, and that's going pretty well, I think. I think I managed to attend 3 in the last month, and very, very interesting. And as Peyton talked about, there's some folks there that are a little eccentric, but you know what? They got a think tank sitting on their shoulders. I know the one guy had 50 patents, started 17 companies, something like that. Found one guy in the hot potato, also an inventor. He was looking for, I believe, people to help him with turning coal into diamonds in a faster process. So I didn't get his name, but because it was a hot potato thing and I was writing it, I would have liked to have talked to him more about his dream of that, because that, you know, that's certainly fascinating. So
yeah, there are definitely some interesting presenters that come through. I know that too. For us, we oftentimes refer companies that we talk to or speak with. I say, you know, it's a great place to kind of test out your ideas if they're a little bit earlier stage company, and so that's sometimes rewarding for me as well. Someone that I've already had conversations with, to watch them maybe get some feedback that maybe I couldn't provide for them. So yeah, I agree with Mark.
Mm-hmm. Peyton, did you have more? Are there more questions for Peyton? Maybe I should ask that question first, but I believe, Peyton, you were going to talk a little bit about your funding, but is there any more on 1 Million Cups right now before we before Peyton takes off on his.
I just a quick one, Peyton, is, any idea how these groups get started? Because these guys are all developers of kind of outstate areas, and say you wanted to start one in Mora or someplace. I mean, any idea how that happens? Do you just get somebody who's got a bug and wants to do it? Maybe you're not the right guy to ask, but.
No, and I think Patrick would probably be the right person to ask for that question. I'm not sure. I would imagine it's something through the Kauffman Foundation. And I don't know what that startup process is like. I could certainly reach out to Patrick and have him answer that question for you if you'd like.
And
I was just curious.
Yeah, Andy, this I&E club came about from a couple years ago. Actually, on a Halloween day, we hosted here at East Central Energy, my business accounts group. A lot of the EDA folks were always calling and asking, what do we do for finance, So we pulled together a group, or we pulled together all the EDAs in our service territory, which is pretty large, and invited them to come. I think we had 50 or 60 people here, and talked about all the programs that East Central Energy offers, all the programs that Great River Energy, our power supply, are offered. And also Jordan, with his Rolodex, helped me contact these people, but everything that the ECRDC does. And we brought in a keynote speaker who is Terry Whipple. Terry Whipple is from Juneau County, Wisconsin. And I actually heard him speak probably about 10 years ago. And I thought, here's an EDA guy that had just a totally different take on things. He was beating the back roads and the farmers and finding all these inventors, and pulled together this group, this I&E club. So after he left, Jordan and I started hashing it out and said, we need one of these. We need one of these here. And, Terry was very helpful. And matter of fact, he was a guest speaker, and he's kind of been our mentor when we need. We talked about the participation level tonight being low, but they're catching it on the video afterwards. We see that number climbing through the roof. And when we saw our participation level drop, Terry was talking about 70, 75 people at his meetings. We called him, and we had 20 that week. Well, he had 18. So I guess we didn't feel so bad. I think we were doing pretty good then. Because he's been doing it a long time.
Mm-hmm.
But I encourage you, if you have not heard of Terry Whipple or the Juneau County Inventors and Entrepreneurs Club, there are YouTube videos out there. His demeanor, his presentation is infectious, obviously, because it caused us to create this one. So Andy, to kind of answer your question and tag on to Peyton, I think that's how they get started, honestly.
Yeah, Mark, can I add something?
Go ahead.
So before I came back to Minnesota, I was for a couple years working in economic development in Northeast Missouri. And obviously the Kauffman Foundation is Missouri pretty much. It's what the Initiative Foundation is to Central Minnesota is what the Kauffman Foundation is to Missouri and Kansas. And the city I was kind of working with was looking to start up a 1 million cups. And I don't know if they've changed it. It's been a couple of years, but at that time, one of the impediments for smaller areas was that they basically made it, I believe, a requirement based on your population, how many times you would meet. So if you had like less than 20,000, you had to meet, or if you had more than 15,000 or something like that, you had to meet weekly. And in a lot of these rural areas, you just don't have enough speakers, right? You're going to churn through that number pretty quick compared to, the more metro areas like Eden Prairie, Edina, et cetera. So what that community did was they basically launched, they got around the copyright somehow, but they launched K-Cups because the name of the city was Kirksville. And it was basically the same, only they did it every month or every 2 months to kind of better fit with their population density or, the amount of businesses, the amount of speakers, things like that. So, I don't know if it's still going on. It kind of tonight's thing will give me a reason to reach out to my old coworkers and find out how it's going. I don't know how with COVID everything's going, but it's something where I think you know, the 1 Million Cups branding's very, very great if you can get it, but just kind of the idea like this, where you kind of throw open a room, be it physical or digital, for people to kind of network. And that's, to me, what the spirit behind 1 Million Cups really is behind. So I'll get off my digital stool now.
All right. Is there any more on 1 Million Cups before Peyton goes to venture capital? Hearing and seeing none. Peyton, do you want to continue?
That'd be great. I'll turn it over to a presentation I know a little bit better.
You did just fine. You did Patrick proud.
All right. Well, yeah. So my company's Traction Capital. We're a hybrid private equity and venture capital fund here in the Twin Cities, as I mentioned before. We had our final close on Fund 1 in March of this year, so we're really just getting off the ground right now. But yeah, that's Traction Capital, and I'm the analyst, like I mentioned before. Sorry guys, I'm having technical difficulties tonight getting through my slides. It's just not moving right. There we go. Yeah, so who we are, I just kind of went over, and our main belief is that investing both financial and smart capital is the way to drive better returns in the businesses that we invest in. So we support our portfolio companies using our network. We use the US process, and then also our team. We're an entrepreneurial fund, and that's kind of a unique aspect of what we do. We don't have traditional investment banking background. Every single person involved, both in our management team and in our broader network, are entrepreneurs themselves. So we leverage that experience to help add value to the deals that we do. We have over 77 LPs, and about 55 of them are Minnesota business owners with businesses ranging from 5 million to hundreds of millions of dollars. Come on, there we go. Purpose: deliver returns, create value, reduce risk, and support and give back. These are our kind of main three purpose for what we do. Again, we are a fund, so at the end of the day, we do want to deliver returns, but we also we view that as a two-pronged approach. It's not just to our investor base. We also want to deliver it to our portfolio companies. We want to work alongside them and help them reach their goals. It's a pretty common thing in our process to ask, you know, what do you want you personally in your exit outcome someday, your dream scenario? What are you trying to achieve both with your company, financially, and personal growth? So we use our process to help deliver those returns to those people. Our model, being half private equity, half venture capital, helps reduce risk, that and implementing our processes. So we have a little bit different risk profile than a traditional VC fund, where it's typically, you know, many deals over the lifetime of the fund, smaller checks, and very, very early stage. We are investing in a little bit more proven companies and looking for a little bit earlier exits. And then community. Community is one of our core values. We want to be involved in giving back to the entrepreneurial community, and we do so by volunteering our time in groups like 1 Million Cups. We work closely with EO Accelerator, which isn't a Traction Capital affiliated program, but it's something that we work alongside that helps companies grow. And in other ways, we try to give back to the community. This is our founder and managing partner, Shane Erickson. He is an entrepreneur himself of 25 years. He started his first company right out of college, studied to be a CPA, still owns that first company now, but since then he used the same process we use at Traction to invest in several early stage companies as an angel investor, and experienced several really successful exits with them. So that was both leveraging that EOS process, his financial knowledge, and his experience as an entrepreneur to help founders and work alongside them in filling out their management teams, defining their growth strategies, and working alongside them for them to reach exit someday. There are a couple examples of companies that he worked with as an angel that he experienced really high return and exit with. We invest in the capital gap. We think it's an area where companies are typically underserved. So a little bit later on the venture side. On the private equity side, then that's where this is really unique. We acquire companies that are, a little bit more mature, but than the venture side, but less mature than where typical private equity likes to play. So traditional private equity, our company's doing 2 million plus EBITDA on an annual basis. Our niche, our sweet spot is about $500,000 to $1.5 million EBITDA. And with those companies, we're not looking to acquire them and scrap them off and make a profit. We're looking to acquire them, work with the key management that's already in place, implement our processes, and hopefully grow and scale and exit them. These are some of the services that we provide to the companies we invest in. Like I mentioned, process, the management experience of our team and our broader investor network, financial oversight, and just access to our really robust network of investors. This is the thesis for the type of companies we're looking for. I kind of went over this already, but 100,000 to 1 million is our typical check size on the venture side. And those are our growth expectations. So potential of 25 million plus enterprise value in 5 to 7 years is where we look to exit. This was our first investment, Quickly. They're a company out of Twin Cities. We do implement our processes with them. We work with them on financial oversight. I built their budgets and projections. And we really, at the end of the day, really believe in the leadership of Pedram and Yom, the two in the picture, in the pictures here, and their ability to lead the company to eventually a successful exit. So we work closely alongside both of them. We also put in Joe Keeley, who scaled and exited a very similar company, or very similar model company to what they're trying to do. And he's our representative on their board. So we use his experience to help add value to this deal. This is our process, our 8-step process, from prospecting through maturity and exit, and everything in between. I won't go in depth here because I know I'm getting towards the end of my time, so I'll just skip through. Here's our team, alongside Shane, myself, the lead analyst. I'm in charge of sourcing deals, analyzing them, and moving them through our deal process. Joe Morris is our Vice President of Mergers and Acquisitions. He has a long track record in both corporate world and it's kind of a second career in the entrepreneur world, starting and exiting several successful companies. And then Brian Cox is our president, alongside Shane. He works to run Traction on a day-to-day basis. And he's also still the owner and general manager of Simply Ride, the largest motorcycle dealer in Minnesota.
Peyton, you're doing just fine.
This is our advisory committee.
Peyton,
we're short on time? Okay.
No,
That's good.
Peyton, you're doing just fine on time. Don't worry about it. Okay?
Oh, I am? Okay. Yeah, I don't want to I know Andy has to present too, so I'm trying to get through it quick.
No, you're fine. We're not like 1 million cups where you're limited to 6 minutes. You got more than that.
Got it. All right. Well, I'll go through these last few slides. I'm almost done here. Our advisory committee is pretty experienced group. Wade Burgess, Matt Meets, Andrew Dunman, Jeff Fritz, Barb Stinnett, and Shane. Barb has raised over $2 billion in Silicon Valley, has a long track record in the venture capital world. Jeff has a successful track record in the healthcare space in the Twin Cities, several startups and exits in the healthcare space. Andrew recently grew his business, Bulk Reef Supply, e-commerce, saltwater aquarium business, and to over $80 million. And Matt Meets was founder of Reside at Magnet 360, and is also working on a new project now himself. Wade Burgess was the CFO and CEO of Ultralux. That was one of Shane's successful exits that was on a previous slide. Here are some of our investors. I'll kind of skip through this. And then, yeah, our steps for our process are, if it was a 1 million cups, what are we looking for? We're looking for investment opportunities. We're looking for people who are, maybe looking for an exit or retirement from their current business. That's more on that acquisition side of things. So we're actively taking applications, and looking forward to talking with promising business owners in the Twin Cities. And yeah, that's our website where you can find our application. So again, thrown off by the technical difficulties on my side, so I apologize for the lack of smoothness on that, but that's Traction Capital.
Great. Questions for Peyton on Traction Capital?
What businesses do you typically, like what sectors? Is it tech? Is it advanced manufacturing? Is it a range?
And it kind of depends on whether it's that private equity or venture side of it. I'd say the venture side, we're more attracted to tech companies for sure. We are relatively agnostic as a whole, just to throw that out there to start with. We don't do med tech in the body. We don't do brick and mortar retail. We don't do bar, restaurant, or real estate. Aside from that, we'll look at anything. But on the venture side, certainly tech, SaaS, things like that are highly attractive. On the acquisition side, though, we actually are big believers in the manufacturing space over the next 10 years. And that's an area of particular interest for us on the acquisition side. So yeah, that is an area that we look at quite often.
So it looks like you're involved, that your interest is in early startups.
Right.
Am I correct?
Half of our model is early startups. That's the venture capital portion. So that's where we're taking a check size of 100,000 to 500,000, and up to $1 million using sidecars from our investor base, and funding growth rounds for startup companies. However, half of our fund, so we're a $16.5 million fund, so approximately $8 million of our fund over the lifetime will actually be in acquisitions of more mature businesses. From the $500,000 EBITDA to $1.5 million EBITDA range is kind of our sweet spot for company size. And those will typically be, million plus type acquisitions. So a little bit larger check size. We're going to try and do one of those acquisitions a year. So those, again, that's not really as much on the startup side. In fact, some of the companies we've looked at on that side have been around for 30, 40, 50 years. But there's some reason that they've hit a ceiling, and we think we could acquire them, grow them, scale them, and exit them at a higher valuation in 5 to 7 years. I hope that was helpful.
I think you're right. Are you primarily looking in the Twin Cities?
Yeah, our geographic focus is definitely Minnesota, Twin Cities. We go out to a broader range of the upper Midwest, and what we define that as is the Dakotas, Wisconsin, Iowa. We call Chicago a suburb of Milwaukee, so we can consider Chicago companies as well. But yeah, that's about as far as we stretch. We'll look at some stuff in Nebraska, but our main focus is Minnesota. And that's mostly because we have a lot of belief in this area as kind of an underserved, underrated business or entrepreneurial community in relation to, the coast. We have a lot of faith in the Midwest and in Midwest entrepreneurs. And at the end of the day, that's where our roots are. Like I alluded to before, 55 investors that are Minnesota business owners. It's a place that is very, very close to all of us. So most of our focus will be here.
Great.
More questions for Peyton? Hearing and seeing none. Peyton, great job. Thank you for being here tonight. You will be sticking around in case there is something coming up, right?
Yep, happy to stick around.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys, and I appreciate you letting me take up so much of your time with 2 presentations and everything, so appreciate it.
You did great. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Andy, are you ready?
I'm ready. I'll go ahead and share.
I'm just going to turn the floor right over to you, and you take it away.
All right, here it comes. Okay. So, you folks see this okay? I gotcha. Okay, good. All right, so thanks for having me. I do appreciate it. And I'm going to share a little bit about my Million Cups experience. And we already talked quite a bit about it, but I'll give it to you from a rookie or novice point of view, and then I'm going to talk about our business and some of our new product development. So first on our company, Fistula Solutions, headquartered in Scandia, Minnesota, as I mentioned. We're on 230th Street and the county line, which Chisago is 240th. So we're 1 mile south. We've got all the bears that you got up north coming into our neighborhood. And, so we're close. We're on the fringe of being in the service area. We develop devices for complications, ostomies, fistulas, complex abdominal wounds. And these devices that we've been developing are essentially my wife's inventive genius. She is our inventor. She is a nurse down at Regents Hospital in St. Paul, and our products are distributed by 3M. So that's a little bit on us. As far as Million Cups goes, I did borrow some content from the Million Cups website. So this isn't anything original. And like, as I mentioned, we're novices. I would tell you that we've just started to engage with the 1 Million Cups organizations in the last few weeks. It's been hugely beneficial. It's been a great find, and I think it's a great resource for inventors, entrepreneurs, anybody who's got an idea that they want to share that they're just looking for feedback on. And as Peyton mentioned, you got a pretty, especially the Indian Prairie, pretty interesting group with some interesting characters that give you some very different perspectives, but they're smart people. And you got to go in there with an open mind and recognize that you're not trying to sell anybody. You're not really necessarily pitching for investors. You're just getting feedback. And I think for any entrepreneur with a new idea, or for somebody who's not comfortable with their presentation skills, this is a hugely valuable resource because, as Peyton mentioned, most of these groups are meeting weekly, and they're all over the country. So, and if you played time zone games, you could probably present multiple times in one day on a Wednesday to different groups across the country. And then every week you could present to different groups. I mean, you could literally do this on a rolling basis all over the place if you really felt the need to get a lot of presentations out there. Again, I did borrow some content on how to actually present from the website, and they've got a 3-step process. It's pretty straightforward. And their first step they recommend is check out your local community. And this is exactly what we did. We did get invited to present or to visit with Eden Prairie first by Patrick, and then ended up presenting with that group. I've also attended the Minneapolis-St. Paul group, and I'm actually presenting for them tomorrow. But I think you get a very good feel for what the group's looking for and what the tone of the group is just by sitting in and attending the events. And they're very open, very friendly. I think I've only been through 2 of them, but the different groups have very different feels, and I think that's probably the case across the country. You can see a number of the groups in the Minnesota area, upper Midwest, and there's the website says 148 across the U.S. Second step is to apply, and the application process is pretty straightforward. I would tell you the only challenge I found with the application is the brevity. It's the old Mark Twain saying that I didn't have time to write you a short letter, so I wrote you a long one instead. I don't know if you've heard that one, but the fact that you only have, for instance, in the company description, you have 250 characters to talk about your company. That's not 250 words, it's 250 letters and spaces. I mean, it's not a lot. And basically all the sections require that level of brevity, which really forces you to hone in on what you're trying to bring to the table and talk about. They ask you to develop these wow statements, and they actually give some pretty good training. And I think that I put this picture block in the wrong spot, but I call this a process gem. I don't know if you can see this link to this YouTube site, and I can drop this in the chat, but this is part of the application. It's actually a short, I think it's like a 7-minute presentation skills training that's in the application form from the Kaufman Foundation. I found actually really valuable. So I could probably pull that out and drop it in the chat here in a bit. And then the presentation. And so presentation is pretty straightforward. Obviously, you need to know Zoom, and I think most people are getting pretty good at that. But if you're not, you need to. You need a presentation or not. I've seen one presenter that just went ad hoc with no slides. It worked fine for that person, not my style, but And I think Peyton mentioned it's super helpful to go up front and tell the group what help you're looking for, because then the group can help direct the conversation with the group, especially when it starts to go off the rails a little bit. But I think that helps the group direct the conversation. Expect open, honest dialogue, and that's what I've seen. And also remember, feedback's a gift. Anything that comes at you, you should take and at least soak on it. So that's been my experience with 1 million cups as a rookie. Any questions on that? I think a little bit of that was redundant with what Peyton told you, but any questions or?
Any questions for Andy? On the 1 million cups part of it, right?
Yep. Okay.
Now you want to carry on and tell us about the product?
Sure. Yeah, I'll keep rolling. So our company is called Fistula Solution, and we're actually developing a new product we're calling the Limpet. And it's a device that's intended to help ostomy patients. And I'll tell you more about what ostomy is, but to help them by eliminating surgical complications and some of the leaks of intestinal effluent or stool that happen with current methods. And it's also intended to save hospitals a lot of money. So as I mentioned, we've got our small business. We've been around almost 10 years. We started designing these devices to help my wife. So she's a wound nurse in Regents Hospital, and she deals with some of the most complex patients you can imagine, as far as complex abdominal wounds, gunshots, you name it, necrotizing fasciitis and other kind of dreadful things. In any case, she was struggling with a lot of patients that had fistulas back in almost 10 years ago now. And so we started having her sketch up some of her ideas for devices to manage these, because what she was doing was going to Menards and Home Depot and making things and helping these patients with plumbing supplies in some cases. So we designed some devices, tooled them up, and started manufacturing them and selling them. And ultimately, we got into a channel distribution arrangement with 3M. And so we're proud to say that 3M distributes our devices today. But now we're focused on a much larger opportunity with our business around ostomy care. And so we're frankly, an inflection point for our business to create a new performance segment in the ostomy care market. And the new device we call the Limpet, and it is named after the small little sea creatures from watching my kids try to pluck these little guys off of rocks when we used to go on vacations. You recognize they have a very tenacious sort of attachment mechanism, which is a lot like our device. For those of you who aren't familiar with ostomy, it's a surgical procedure that happens to about 100,000 patients annually in the US for a variety of reasons. And after that surgery, the patient is left with a stoma. It's an opening to their intestinal tract that protrudes from the side of their body. And they typically manage their waste, their poop, by attaching a plastic pouch, something like this, to the skin around their stoma. Okay, it's kind of a rough deal, but it's a life-saving surgery in most cases, and pretty important. As you could imagine, this is a procedure that does have a fairly high complication rate, actually very high complication rate for a lot of reasons. It's not necessarily a sterile field and you got a lot of moving parts, but complications can happen to the stoma formation itself, and they can also happen to the skin around the stoma. The cost of those complications on a per patient basis can be up to $78,000. And that's driven primarily by hospital readmissions. There's a very high readmission rate, and then extended hospital stays for these patients. And so we estimate it to be a multi-billion-dollar problem in the US. So the current standard of care are ostomy pouches. They're a disposable device. They don't really have much in the way of therapeutic value, and they're prone to failure. The adhesive that's used can fail due to moisture. And also just simply the weight of a full pouch can put a lot of shear force on a seal that's not very strong. So that can be a real problem. By contrast, our device is an active incision therapy. It uses negative pressure or vacuum suction, if you want to think about it that way, to anchor the device to the tissue around the stoma. And that negative pressure creates a super secure attachment mechanism that stabilizes the stoma site and allows the sutures and the stoma to heal. And the negative pressure also provides therapy to the tissue underneath to improve blood flow and accelerate healing. In addition, because it's such a secure attachment, it prevents leaks, and it can go up to a week between device changes, which is much longer than a standard ostomy pouch. The total available market for ostomy care is $3.5 billion. It includes 1 million patients in the US and another 700,000 in Europe. And our strategy with this new device is to target the healthcare providers that are making new ostomies, those 100,000 patients a year, as our beachhead market, and really work with those surgeons and the surgical teams to provide better outcomes for the patients, generate loyalty with those surgeons and their teams, and also the patients, so that when the patients are healed and have established ostomies, we can continue to grow with recurring sales to them in the outpatient segment. Because a lot of these folks end up living with an ostomy for the rest of their lives. Some do get reversed, but in the short term, short term, they're going to have it for months. Long term, they have it the rest of their lives. And just anecdotally, just to give you an experiential story, one of my wife's patients was on his way to a clinic appointment a while back, was pumping gas, and his pouch broke loose right while he's pumping gas. And so, he's just kind of your standard old guy, just kept pumping gas, finished up, and then just got in his truck and went back home and, missed his appointment. And it's just a frustrating, challenging way to live for these people. So the value proposition for folks in the outpatient market is to give people the ability to attend meetings, to get on a plane and go places, and be comfortable in a social environment. So my wife has been custom building these devices and demonstrating feasibility with them since 2018. So we've been at this for a while, and we've seen very positive results from those prototypes. Along the way, we've filed utility patents in the United States and also in Europe. We're currently in our development process. This is our commercialization pathway. The blue box is our faster path to market, and we're targeting a US inpatient launch by late 2023. There's a lot of work ahead here, and we actually, in April, applied for a National Institutes of Health grant through the, I don't know if any of you are familiar with the Minnesota SBIR program, but Pat Dillon leads that. And so we put in a large grant request to the NIH to fund a lot of this work. And we actually were yesterday, they just announced we were accepted to the semifinals group for the Minnesota Cup. So we're pretty excited about that and looking forward to that opportunity. There's our team. There's my wife. She's our inventive genius. She's our visionary. She's got deep experience in ostomy and wound care, not necessarily glamorous stuff, but she's very good at it. She is a leader on the complex abdominal reconstruction team at Regents Hospital. If you ever see her looking over your bed, well, just hope that never happens. Let's just leave it at that. I'm the founder of our business. I've got 25 years of leadership experience in manufacturing and technology, and I have commercialized and launched 3 ostomy and fistula care products in the US and Europe. I am an EOS integrator and a veteran of the US Army. And that's the short pitch. The Limpet is the next generation of ostomy incision management, and really our goal is to become a performance leader in this market and help to transform this industry. It's kind of been stagnant for a long time. Ostomy pouches haven't evolved since really the 60s, frankly. We're in the early stages of fundraising. As I mentioned, we're pursuing that NIH grant, but along the way, we are raising some seed capital to execute our commercialization pathway and get the ball rolling. So I really appreciate the opportunity to present, and I look forward to any questions about this stuff.
Andy, before anybody asks a question, I'll just say this, and that's thank you for your service to our country.
Oh, no problem. It was a long time ago.
It doesn't matter if it was yesterday or 20 years ago. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
So how long has your wife been doing this inventing?
Well, let's see here. This is her inventor's notebook. Let's see it. I'll tell you, we got, let's look for a first date. I mean, she's a farm girl, right? We both grew up in Scandia, went to Scandia Elementary. First sketches are 12/26 of 2011. So it must have been drinking wine after Christmas, probably, is my guess. So, so yeah, she's got a lot of ideas. She's very creative. So
great. And how did you guys get connected with 3M?
So we bootstrapped this whole thing to begin with, and we actually tooled up our devices over in an outfit called Prism Plastics over in New Richmond, Wisconsin. And it's just one of those stories where we were doing this as a side gig, and we were trying to figure out where to get our first device made, and we needed a device that needed to have some flexibility to it and be kind of squishy and rubbery. Anyway, my dad knew these guys that had a injection molding plant that made they make goose and elk calls, and they have those bellows. I don't know if you've ever used like an elk call that bugles. And so anyway, they had some competency in this space because they make animal calls. And so we started building them. We started selling them directly ourselves. So we were going hospital to hospital, value analysis team to value analysis team, selling them online. And then there was a wound care company called KCI that our devices are a good accessory for down in Texas. Started talking to them at medical conferences, and then ultimately put a distribution agreement in place with KCI. Then about 2 years ago, 3M acquired KCI, and it's actually, KCI was 3M's largest acquisition ever. It was, I think, in the neighborhood of $6 billion, big one. And so that's how we ended up with 3M. It was just one of those, we just kind of landed there.
Nice.
Yeah.
Other questions for Andy?
I'm really intrigued by the SBIR. So can you explain a little more about, did you go through the accelerator program with Pat Dillon?
We did. And it sounds like you're familiar with it.
I worked for the SBIR program in Washington, D.C. at SBA. Yep.
Oh, well, there you go. Okay. So it's that same program. And I'm sorry, I was dropping in the link to that video. So I think that we got hooked up with her because we're part of Medical Alley, which is the Medical Alley Association in Twin Cities. And they had a webinar last fall about funding options for startups. And Pat presented, and I was like, my God, the government gives away free money and I shouldn't say free money, but it's our money. It's our taxpayer money, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm like, the government's giving away that kind of money to companies? And I was like, that can't be right, And so, but I dug into it, and then I was like, oh my God, it's non-dilutive. I was like, gotta try it. And so we got into the accelerator, or into our cohort, the one that started, I don't know, early January, and went through the process. It was super rigorous. I mean, it was actually a big learning opportunity. It helped us to really refine our plans, and super helpful, frankly. So, yeah.
Have you applied for any SBIR opportunities yet? I don't know if I heard that.
Oh yeah, I mean, we put in a grant proposal to the NIH for about $2 million. So that's to fund a clinical trial for this device and some development and so forth. But as I understand, the process takes a little while, and
it's very slow.
Yeah. So we're hoping to learn something this summer, or get some better, get some better idea when it might hit. But in theory, if it does come through, we wouldn't receive that until September or December, I guess, are the windows that are available to us. So, but
have you looked into government contracting through the federal government?
Not yet, but Pat's kind of pushed on us that is an opportunity. And she's, it's interesting because all these agencies have pools of money, the National Science Foundation, DOD. I mean, I think small businesses it's a program that really ought to get better publicity, because a lot of businesses could benefit if they are willing to do the legwork, because it's not trivial to put the application together, and just the computer systems that you have to interface with alone are a nightmare, but it's good. I mean, it's a good thing. So,
So Rebecca and Andy, with this government program grant funding that you're talking about, at East Central Energy, we have USDA red leg loans, and they come in the form of grants and loans, and that we pass on to businesses in our area. And my question is you mentioned the process. Well, the process is probably as slow, if not slower than what you're saying, but it also comes with a mountain of paperwork that has to be done.
Yeah.
Is that the same on the SBA side? Is it a mountain of paperwork?
I would say for the application, it was a lot of documentation required. I think my application ended up being 119 pages or something like that. Now, after you get the grant, I'm assuming there is a fair amount of accountability required. I know that there is. So I don't know what the administrative burden is going to look like, assuming we get it. So it might be one of those be careful what you wish for sort of scenarios, but we'll see.
Free money is not always free.
Something that I think is really funny with SBIR and SBA is the whole like SBIR, STTR team gets really tired of SBA, kind of the bureaucratic aspects of SBA. So they took their whole website off of SBA.gov and made SBIR.gov, which is a really actually functional website compared to SBA.gov. And so I would encourage anyone interested to look at SBIR.gov.
Yeah, I just dropped a link in there to Pat's program. But the interesting thing is when you have to do all your registrations, you still have to register with the SBA website when you go through all these various government organizations you have to register with. So, yeah. So anyway, so I saw Linda's question about Marianne aspiring to leave nursing to focus on the business. I'll tell you, it's interesting. I think she just heard her get home, but she doesn't really like the business side. She likes the inventing. She likes to help patients. That's kind of her deal. And she's on the speakers bureau so she has a regular job at Regions. She's my, partner in crime on this stuff, but she's not really associated. She doesn't like to get into the weeds on the business really at all, except that she is on the speakers bureau for 3M. So she does present on their products, and she's an expert with a lot of their really complex advanced wound care stuff. She also presents professionally for the major wound conferences globally. I mean, she's presented in Amsterdam and Ireland, and she speaks at the SAWC conferences, which are the big ones in the States here every year. She's on the faculty of these types of conferences. So she does some speaking on the side, so she does have a little bit of a side gig going on there. But as far as the business side, she tries to stay away from that part of it. So.
It's interesting that you talked about that. You asked the question earlier about starting a 1 million cups and all that, and I alluded to Terry Whipple, and the first presentation I heard Terry make was, that's why he beat the back roads and looked for farmers, because they invented things out of necessity, right? They made modifications or something that fit. And then, of course, the neighbor farmer would want one.
Right.
So they'd make one. But much like your wife, they like to do the inventing. But once they had it, they didn't know what to do with it. They didn't know how to make it into a business. They didn't know how to sell it and all that. So that's really putting the inventor side of this club to a business side, tying them to businesses that can help them. Tying them to people that can offer patents. We had a patent attorney speak at one of our former meetings, and that sort of thing. So that's how the I&E Club in Juneau County actually started. So very interesting that your wife doesn't want to she wants to keep inventing but not do the business side of things.
Well, I think if you're familiar with traction, and there's a question about me being an integrator, I'll talk to that in a second. But in the traction, if you read the book, and it's a great book. If you haven't, I'd recommend it. But and the system's good, really good. But when you start talking about a visionary versus an integrator, they're two different personality types, and they often are. Like this, and a lot of inventors are the visionary types. They're like, hey, they are the fountain of ideas. They're fixing things, they're developing things, but you need that integrator, a little more disciplined, maybe a little more of a geek to actually bring it to actually be something or make it something. And it's a team effort, obviously, but I think that a lot of inventors probably, I mean, Marianne and I are, she has her strength. She's totally a creative type of person. But when it comes to the kind of actually putting structure around things and trying to actually make them in a programmatic sort of thing, it's not her deal. And so we complement each other. But I think a lot of your inventors probably need an integrator type or somebody to kind of help them organize, maybe is a way of thinking about it. I mean, it's just a thought. And as far as how I became an integrator, I ended up, I've got my best friend growing up in Scandia has a software company down in St. Paul, and he's a visionary, total creative, a disaster. He'd be a total loss into the world if his wife wasn't so organized. But anyway, he needed help running his company, and so I came down and worked with him for a couple of years. Ended up going through we actually took his company through the program with implementer, a guy named Justin Cox down in St. Paul, and he was the implementer for our company. And so I ran as the integrator for, I don't know, 3 years, something like that, and went through some of the training and so forth. So but I've just kind of got a tendency, those skills. I'm an engineer undergrad, and I've worked in operations in a number of different capacities and in R&D and so forth. So it's just kind of my happy place, I guess. So.
Yeah, I mean, you want me to read it, or you want to take care of the next question?
Sure. The next one, the invasive products.
Yep.
So we do have FDA clearance for the devices, and it was tricky. These are actually non-invasive products, though. These are they go on the skin around. I've got gross pictures I could show you guys, but I don't think I want to do that. Yeah, okay, I won't. It's around dinner time. But these kind of wounds that our devices are designed for the devices are used on the surface of the body. And so they're non-invasive. They're classified, they're class 1 device, which is similar to like an ostomy pouch. They go on the outside of your body. So they look a little scary, but they aren't invasive. So they're, from a regulatory approval standpoint, they're class 1 exempt devices from an FDA standpoint. And so there is a FDA process you have to go through, but it's a lot less rigorous than, say, a lot of other things that are more invasive or that sort of thing. So, Yep.
Okay, I think that's the last of the questions in chat. Unless somebody's typing one, we'll give them a few minutes. Is there somebody that would like to ask another question of Andy?
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to present. I'll throw my email in here in case anybody wants to shoot me a note. I'm not good at talking and typing, but
I don't have the flyer up, but generally in the flyer we do have emails and contact informations of all our speakers. So
sure. Yep.
You can and the flyers are posted on our website. So
yep. So yeah, but if anybody has any follow-up questions later, that's totally fine. But like I said, we're sort of in the neighborhood. We're on the southern fringe.
So we'll steal another 1 million cups deal here today, and that's what do you need from this group? What do you need from this community? What are you looking for?
Well, I think, it's a great question. I should have told you that up front. But for us at the stage, we are trying to, we've got a legacy business. We're trying to launch a whole new business that's much larger opportunity for us. One thing we're working on is developing a better, stronger advisory group of key opinion leaders among, and you guys might not have one of these guys in your hip pocket, but ostomy surgeons or surgeons that have deep experience in creating ostomies, whether they're military or civilian. Those kind of people would be super helpful for us to connect with, and potentially bring on board as some sort of a clinical advisor. So that'd be helpful. And I know that, a lot of those folks are more down in the cities, obviously, but you never know. And then we are, as I mentioned, we've got this grant application in process. We're starting to raise seed capital to get our process or our development rolling while let's see where this lands as far as this grant. So seed investors who might be a fit, folks that are interested in wound care, and have some experience in that space and aren't afraid of the medical device space, clinical trials, and all that kind of stuff, that would be helpful. So clinical advisors, investors, those would be two very helpful options.
Jordan, how big is your Rolodex again?
I'll do what I can.
I appreciate it.
Andy, feel free to give me a call at your convenience and we can chat and brainstorm and see what we come up with.
Yeah, no, that's great, Jordan. I appreciate it.
Any other questions for Andy?
Okay.
While we're waiting, let's see. I'm looking at the list here, and I think I saw somebody sneak in the door here. I just want to check. Paul, did you sneak in while we had started the meeting? We hot potatoed a introduction, and if you're here, Paul, would you just give us a 30-second rundown of yourself?
Yeah, my name is Paul Kastmauer. I'm the owner of Dalcor Corporation out of Mora, and we have a bunch of rental properties, and we have a welding manufacturing shop and stuff, making grain conveyor equipment, and that's our main focus right now.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Paul. And looking at the list, I think everybody else is been introduced. Rebecca, have you been here before, or was this your first meeting? You've been here before, haven't you? Yeah. Leslie, I'm going to pick on you, so you need to come off mute. You don't have to turn on your camera, but I'm going to pick on you, and I can do that because I know Leslie. So this was your first meeting. Give us some feedback.
It's great. I was thinking as both the presentations are going on that it's really refreshing to hear what people are doing out in the development and business development world. So I think the pace, the information's all been really good, and I was super glad I was able to attend tonight.
Well, we're happy you're here, and by the way, congratulations on your new job.
Thank you.
And you may want to go back through the archives, because we had John, shoot, can't remember his last name. Somebody help me out.
John Norris?
John Norris. John Norris was one of our presenters. And Bob Thompson, recent presenter.
Kevin Anderson?
Kevin Anderson, yeah. There we go. So they've all presented to you, and I know you know Kevin very well, Leslie, but
Yes, but yeah. Yeah, I will actually do that, because I was super sad to miss their presentations, to understand kind of what they do and what their businesses are up to. You know, my brain's already rolling after this last presentation of the people I know in the medical field. So give me some time, Andy, but maybe I might have somebody up my sleeve that might have some interest in this or whatever. But yeah.
and if you go back through to the November 2019 meeting, I believe that's still up and on the website. That was our largest turnout in this area for that speaker. And of course, that was Dennis Franzen, who's a what is he, a philanthropist, entrepreneur, and inventor all in one?
Admirable person, right?
Yeah. And I mean, the people just came out of the woodwork just to come and hear the guys to speak. And at 80 years old, he was 80 years old then, and what a great job, what a fantastic guy, you know, to be able to pick his brain for a little while.
Right.
You know, that he's well known in this area, put it that way.
Yep.
He's probably well known in a lot of different areas, including, I think besides how he started, I think one of the best things I got out of his presentation that I didn't know was when he was flying with the owner of the Timberwolves to a game on the East Coast, and the owner of the Timberwolves had 3-4 different banks that he owned, and he bought the banks while they were in the air.
Oh my goodness.
So, but yeah, so
I have one piece of feedback for you.
yeah.
So I think you should change Jordan's name to on his screen to Kilroy, because every time he comes on, all you see is this.
It's part of my weight loss program. You don't have to see my double chins that way.
I'm sorry, I had to go there.
But if you listen to Jordan, and everybody that knows Jordan says he has a radio personality voice, and it is true because he did radio back in the day. And so he's not accustomed to being, you know, on the camera. He's accustomed to being behind the microphone. That's why you only see his eyes. So is there anything else that we need to discuss here tonight? Any questions anybody has? If not, Peyton and Andy, we really appreciate you taking time out of your day. We appreciate learning about your businesses and your 1 Million Cups experience. Again, the 1 Million Cups Eden Prairie is at 9 o'clock tomorrow. And I believe if you just Google 1 Million Cups Eden Prairie, you can find that. And 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. And again, I've attended a few. They're very interesting. A lot of good individuals attending that. Much like this, I believe. Rebecca, you had a hand up, or was that a mistake? Oh no, that was the clap. That was. I'm not good with emojis. See, I'm not of that generation. My most used emoji is this because it's, you know. So, but yes, Rebecca, you know, clap. 1 Million Cups, I believe they do the clap. Yep.
Okay.
All right. With that, I will close the meeting or adjourn the meeting and ask everybody to have a great evening and be kind. Thank you very much for attending.
Thank you.